Welcome to Two Therapists Talking. The hope for this podcast is to talk about important issues related to couples and individuals who are struggling in their lives with many different issues. I'm David Thompson, a marriage and family therapist.
And I'm Sherie Christensen, marriage and family therapist. Please join us as we explore these issues together, and we hope you will learn and be enlightened along the way. Come find us at twotherapisttalking.com. If you like what you're hearing, please get on and rate us and subscribe to the podcast.
Hi, and welcome back to Two Therapists Talking. I'm David.
And I'm Sherie. And we're here today to talk about a book that I recommend to a lot of my clients. It's called The Mood Cure by Julia Ross. She works in the field of nutritional psychology and has clinics, and basically in the clinics they work to get people off of their depression and anxiety medications using food and healthy practices and supplementation.
Which is definitely something a lot of clients ask about. I think
Right.
a lot of the clients that we talk to, speaking for me at least, who are on medications, and definitely a lot of medications, would like to get off and explore other options. Often just the side effects are rough. And so to be able to feel better and to figure some of this out without the side effects would be, a positive. And so we hear this a lot.
Yeah. I think a lot of clients too will come in before they've gotten on medication. They're struggling with maybe some mild or moderate depression or anxiety, and they don't want to go on the medications for the same reason, which is understandable. So this is a really great option. This is what I recommend to people. And obviously we're not doctors. We're not, that's not our field of expertise, but, we refer people to this book because it can give you that little bit of boost. You can read through it. It talks about complications with different medications or things you have to be aware of, so that people can do their own research on it and figure out what works for them, and getting that support and that help that they need.
Right.
I can really help people to not have to be dependent on or start up a medication. So again, it's not for everyone, and you have to kind of do your own research on it. But I have a lot of clients that have found this to be very, very helpful and useful in their supporting their depression, anxiety, and things like that.
Even if just the concept that your diet and your food, your supplements, drinks, energy drinks, whatever, can affect your mood and maybe has a significant role in affecting your mood, even if you just start thinking about that, then this is successful.
Yes.
I mean, the idea, of course, is that lots of things affect your mood, your thinking patterns, your trauma history, things you've been through. Sometimes, though, we don't give enough attention to blood sugar and protein and fats and supplements we're taking, or maybe overstimulated.
Oh, yes, stimulants.
And so, one thing that I was reading actually like a month or so ago is an article on how they're testing not ketamine, I want to say ketamine, that's funny. Of course, ketamine's part of this. Ketosis. They're testing ketosis as a therapeutic intervention for mood, where if you are, I've actually personally done the keto thing a few times, and when I'm in ketosis, I feel better. Like I feel like I can tell a difference. In fact, I kind of joke about it with my wife. I was like, I feel like I'm taking something. But now we know that, your diet affects this stuff a lot. And so that's why they're testing ketosis as a therapeutic intervention, primarily for depression.
Yeah.
And so we know that your food and your diet play a role. And maybe this episode, we want you to really consider if this is you, or you're struggling with mood disorders, or just feeling a lot of heavy things. We want to talk about this.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, there's so many pieces that really affect, like that blood sugar stabilization, making sure you're eating, proteins or different things, healthy fats, like very on a regular basis throughout your day. is really critically important to maintain the healthy chemical balance in your brain. David mentioned stimulants. Stimulants can absolutely wreak havoc on your serotonin levels. And so you want to just be aware of a lot of these things and recognize, okay, what's going to affect. And she also talks about the importance of getting your thyroid checked and getting, just checking out.
Hormones and
Yes, your sex hormones, all of these different things are going to affect your body. So a lot of times we struggle with the connection between the mind and the body, right? And what if this is going on just in my head and I'm just depressed? What if it is in my body that's causing this lack of the things that we need?
right, because if your brain is underfueled,
Yes.
that may be more a factor than you're feeling undermotivated.
Yes.
And so if your brain isn't getting what it needs, I mean, we kind of think of our body often as needing things, not so much our brain, but our brain still needs things too.
Yes, it's part of the body.
Right. And so in terms of nutrients and blood flow and all sorts of things, your brain has to operate well with certain things. And if it doesn't have those, then it can affect mood because it's your brain. It's
Yes.
different from your arm or your leg.
Yeah.
It's your brain. And so it's kind of a complex system.
Yeah, and your brain uses so much of your fuel and requires so many of the different chemicals and things. You need to make sure you have a really good balance. And she talks about how a lot of the ways that our food is processed, and the way that it's grown, whether it's a vegetable or whether it's a protein, oftentimes doesn't provide us enough of what we need. And that's where some of the supplementation comes into place.
Right.
Which is really great. I use these supplements when I'm struggling, when I have too much stress, or when I'm feeling down in different ways. And it's been super helpful for me to give myself that little bit of extra support at the times that I need it. And the great thing about these supplements is they're in and out of your body in less than a day. So you can adjust them on a daily basis to what your body needs, which I think is really great, because a lot of times we look at things like seasonal affective disorder. We look at the cycle, the menstrual cycle for women, and what they're finding with a lot of these, what they're finding with ADHD medication, what they're finding with depression medication, all these things, is that those types of things affect how much your body needs.
Yeah.
So during the winter, you need more. During certain
Right.
parts of like the female menstrual cycle, you need more. But if you're on a medication that takes 6 weeks to get into your body, right,
Yeah.
like depression medication or anxiety medications, you're in trouble, right? You can't just up what you need at the various parts of your cycle or the various parts of the year as easily.
You
They'll
just have
do
to
that
plan in
now.
advance, 6 weeks.
Yes, 6 weeks plan in advance.
Try to
Hey,
manage
your
all
monthly
that.
cycle is, you need to plan that 6 weeks in advance. Like it's not going to work, right? So that's the really nice thing about this, is you can try things out and you can test them out and see how they work for your body, and then up those things or adjust those things, and you can do that on a daily basis, even during the day. You can adjust those.
And I don't have a lot of experience with this personally.
Yeah.
So I'm depending on Sherie here. And you've done this, you do this,
I've done this.
and you notice a difference.
It's huge.
Wow.
Yeah. There's been times when I've had fairly intense depression, and I've been able to like come out of that just using the
Wow.
supplementation and the healthy eating and whatnot.
That's great.
Yeah. So, and she talks about how to do that safely, to find what you need, the amounts that you need safely. And the great thing again too is that these are just parts of your food. These are amino acids. So the ones, especially some of the ones that we're going to talk about. So it's like, you get a bottle on Amazon for like $15, right? And it can last you for a couple of months. And So it's nice because it's a cheap alternative sometimes to some of the medications and different things that are available, and can give you some just really fantastic support. In
Yeah.
fact, I have ADHD clients that will use supplementation because it's hard to get a doctor to be like, oh, hey, or, here's your ADHD meds will last 8 hours, but I don't know anyone that only wants to function for 8 hours out of the day. And so I have a lot of clients that will supplement in the morning, and then take their ADHD meds at like noon, or swap that and take their ADHD meds at like 3 or 4 to give themselves enough to get through the end of the day, because some of these supplements are related to the same ones that you would take for ADHD, or they hit the same receptors in your brain. So just a lot of really good potential options if you're struggling, if you are not really interested in medication. Again,
Or all those who are on it and have been for years and it's not
yes,
working well.
yeah, and are wanting to get off or whatever. Obviously, you need to make sure you're consulting
Right.
with your doctor, and you're
Definitely.
make sure that they're aware of what's going on, and that you're paying attention, because there are a few things that you do need to be careful and aware of as you're doing this. So do your own research, talk to your doctor, do some of those things. But this is incredibly useful and helpful, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I think just the concept is a really good one. I think we'd be pretty ignorant to say the mental health crisis that seems to be happening, especially here in America, is not linked to how poor our diets have become. Either lack
Yes.
of nutrients, processed foods,
Yes.
obesity. I'm curious if there's studies on this, comparing America to, let's say, Europe, where
Oh, yeah.
Europeans tend to eat better. Everything is fresher. They have laws against preservatives and different things. And so I don't know. I'm just curious about that. But maybe
Yeah.
somebody listening knows more about that.
Yes, probably. There's probably a lot of people out there that know a lot about that. Yes. So just this idea that your brain is responsible for your feelings and how those are showing up, and that's going to absolutely be affected by what you're putting in your
Yeah.
body and your sleep and all of these things. So, and she goes into a lot of those other things. We're going to talk a lot about the supplementation aspect of it. And then you can look at a lot of the healthy food options, making sure you've checked your thyroid, making sure you've checked your sex hormones, making sure that you are getting the sleep that you need,
Sleep.
in order to take care of your body properly.
Just the concept that to feel good, you need to have a healthy, functioning brain.
Yeah.
Just that concept alone, I think, is pretty important. And so, nutrients, what the brain needs, the fuel you're providing it. I mean, we've used this term before, I think, in prior episodes, but programmers, it's GIGO, and it means garbage in, garbage out. If you don't code well, the program won't run well. And
Yes.
so the code has to be clean for it to function properly. And same with your brain, garbage in, garbage out. And we are concerned about our mood. That affects us directly. But we
Right.
don't tend, I don't think, to link sleep and diet and nutrition and all of these things to mood. We just say, oh, what's going on that I don't feel good?
Yeah.
And
I'm
sort of skip over.
depressed. Life is hard.
Life is hard. That
Instead
must
of,
be why. Because
yes.
there's stressors. Well, there have always been stressors and there will always be stressors.
Yeah.
And I wonder if people that seem to be doing better at managing their mood, or maybe they're more positive or cheerful, maybe a lot of this has to do with better nutrition, better habits and patterns that take care of their brains,
Yeah.
like literally take care of their brains. And
Yes.
so it's a really good thing to open the door on, to consider, to study, to learn more about, especially if maybe you've been struggling with mood stuff for a long time and there just hasn't been a lot of progress.
Yeah. Yeah. I think she talks about false moods. That's kind of how she talks about when our food or the different supplementation or whatever that we're needing, we're not getting that it's normal to have ebbs and flows in our emotions and for things to affect us. But when it's really intense, like when we're snapping at our kids, for example, or when we're watching a movie and we just get really emotional around what's happening there, you know, kind of those thoughts were like, man, I just don't know what got into me. I just got super irritable or frustrated and I'm not quite sure why. Just kind of came out of nowhere. Or even things like PMS can be related to not having the right supplementation. But if you're constantly beating yourself up and I just can't seem to do these things right. These are not, they feel normal, I think, nowadays. We just
Right.
assume that this is like how people are. Yeah.
How I'm wired, maybe.
Yes. How
Yeah.
I'm wired. This is just how I am. But that's actually not normal.
But then you'll feel like it'll never be better. And so there's
Yes.
usually low motivation because finding a cure, is there a cure? No,
Is there a cure
it's
to
just
who
who
I
am.
really am?
Right.
Yeah. And you just can kind of fall into these patterns of just believing that that's just how it is, or that's how society is. We're all down on ourselves, or we all snap and get irritable when we're under stress. And the reality is those are false moods, right? Those, according to how she describes
So she
it.
would call it a false mood if it's coming from a nutritional deficiency
Yes.
versus, some other factor.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I like that.
So she says we need to take care of those deficiencies in our diet and support our bodies in those ways, combined with, right, psychotherapy. And we can really start to improve our quality of life quite a bit. So, and even more than that, there was some research that she was looking into that even talks about how some people their brains are just wired to not have enough of those things that they need.
Right. Like a natural deficiency.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or sensitivity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. So with, for example, just in general, like women don't make as much serotonin as men and we use more. So
Well, that
we're
explains a lot right there.
we're going to probably be more prone to needing some of that extra support.
Right.
But then we have things that maybe in our particular DNA or, things like that where we're running at a lower capacity, right? That's ADHD is often related to not having enough dopamine, right? And so those kinds of things are where she's saying, hey, like, let's give you some support. And a lot of those revolve around the amino acids that are found in proteins.
Yeah.
So there are 22 different kinds of amino acids in high protein foods. And several of those directly correlate to our mood. So we want to make sure we're getting enough protein in our diet. But she talks about there's kind of 4 different areas and there's 4 different types of amino acid that focus on those different areas of our brain and our moods. So the 4 different kinds are serotonin, catecholamines, GABA, and endorphins. And there are specific amino acids that are related to each of those that are precursors for those chemistry, your brain chemistry. So serotonin 5-HTP is a precursor to serotonin. That also is something that's required to make the melatonin that your body needs to sleep well, right? So if you're high in serotonin, you're positive, you're confident, flexible, you're easygoing. If you're low in serotonin, you will tend to become negative, obsessive, worried, irritable, sleepless. If you're high in the catecholamines, which is your dopamine, adrenaline, And those things, you're going to be energized. You're going to be upbeat. You're going to be alert. If you have cataclamians, she calls them cats that have crashed, right? You have kind of this, you're flat, lethargic, low motivation, struggling. It's just kind of the meh or the blah kind of things that my kids
Right.
will talk about, right? And then the third category is your GABA. If you are high in GABA, you're relaxed, you're stress-free. If you're low, you'll be wired, stressed out, overwhelmed. And then if you're high in your endorphins, you have lots of feelings of comfort, pleasure, euphoria, like you're just kind of this cozy kind of feelings. And if you don't have very many endorphins, you might be crying during commercials or overly sensitive to hurt and to kind of life's pain.
So memorize all that.
Yes. So if some of those sound like, oh, maybe I have some of that. Maybe I need a little bit of extra support.
Yeah.
Stick with us. In the next episode, we're going to go through her questionnaire, and you can even take notes and see, hey, what is it that I need? Are there things that my body needs? And then you can check out the book and see if you can get some extra support for your body.
I mean, we're successful if all we do is help you to think, okay, I really need to take a longer, harder look at my diet and nutrition. And am I just getting what I need for my brain to even have the building blocks to feel better?
Right. And again, like she says, a lot of these things, not only are we not eating enough protein, but also the proteins and the things that we are eating aren't actually giving us quite enough of what we need often. So if you tend to have family members that have depression or anxiety, this might be an inherited thing that you just need a little bit extra support, and you just can't quite get it from the foods that you're eating. You might need a little extra supplementation.
Yeah. Yep.
So join us next time.
We'll talk more about it. Thanks for joining us.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Two Therapists Talking. We look forward to sharing more conversations with you. Connect with us at twotherapisttalking.com or email podcast@twotherapisttalking.com. If you like what you're hearing, please get on and rate us and subscribe to the podcast.